It is a speedway with swagger.
These drivers know what's at stake, the most pressure they've faced in their careers.
This is the place where fists have flown, faces have been bloody.
You're the no goodness mother I've ever met.
You got to raise your game. Everybody's going to. You just got to raise it more than the other person.
Only 2 races remain in the round of 8 before we have determined the championship 4. And this is the first of 2 practices today at Texas Motor Speedway for the Sprint Cup Series. Cars will be making their way out onto the track. 8 drivers still with a chance for a championship. Jimmy Johnson, with the win at Martinsville last weekend, has locked himself into the championship 4. 7 other drivers fighting for 3 spots. 1 could be determined tomorrow at Texas Motor Speedway. Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton, Rick Allen with you today. Marty Snyder and Mike Massaro down on pit road in the garage. And as far as taking us through from a crew chief standpoint, what are we going to have on the checklist this morning in this first practice deal?
Well, it's difficult, Rick. You know, the track, they had track time yesterday, but they were the first cars on the track. A lot of rain on Thursday. The track was pretty green. While there was a little bit of truck practice, not a lot, we saw the track change tremendously from practice to qualifying. So we already know that this surface is sensitive to how many cars are on it. These drivers and teams are going to have to take that into account this morning. It's only, 9:30 local. It's a little overcast, a little cool. Speeds are going to be up, which is great for us as fans to watch. But as the competitors, Jeff, I'm not sure it's going to be an accurate read to what they're going to fight tomorrow afternoon.
That's always a difficult decision, how much to run in this first practice. Then more importantly, what are you learning in this first practice? The good thing is, though, it's the forecast for tomorrow is mostly cloudy. It's not going to be a hot day, so we're not going to go from a cloudy condition to tomorrow where you have all the sun. So I think that helps a little bit.
Yeah, the other thing, Rick, we're going to use all kinds of fun words like character, bumps, details, but this track does have a lot of personality, and you can work on that really no matter what the weather conditions are. The bumps aren't going to change. The roughness of the racetrack isn't going to change with temperature. So if you have shocks, springs, a different suspension package, something you just need the driver to feel, something you can't figure it out in the computer. Some things are still needed to be felt on the racetrack, and you can accomplish all that this morning.
One of the things that I'm sure everyone is going to be keeping their eyes on will be the 18 as he will make his way out onto the track. The 18 in a backup car after hitting the wall yesterday in practice. It took him about 53 minutes to get the 18, the backup car, ready and out onto the track. But this is what happened to Kyle Busch early in the practice.
You said early, like leaving pit road, coming to get the green on his first run. Carlos, like it bottoms out, he has to chase it up the racetrack, and get back in the throttle, thinking he had it saved, and ends up making hard contact. And immediately, right off the bat, they're having to get their backup out.
So they got the backup out. They were able to get it on track, but then they had a problem in qualifying where someone didn't tighten the hose, more or less, and they only got 1 shot at qualifying. They went out in the first round, ran a lap, but then had to go behind the wall and into the garage because of leaking water. So a mistake by the 18 has put the 18 team in a little bit of a hole. Mike.
And Rick, obviously a frustrating day for the entire 18 team. You could sense that in the interview after qualifying with crew chief Adam Stevens, basically saying in their haste to try to turn over the backup car and change the motor in it, they forgot, neglected to clamp the lower radiator hose, and that's what led to the problem during qualifying. As for what happened on the racetrack on that very first lap of practice, well, Kyle spoke about it in the media center afterwards, pretty much taking the blame himself, saying as he was getting through the bumps in turns 3 and 4, it just upset the car, and he wasn't able to collect it before it hit the wall. So he took that upon himself. There was some thought that maybe it was a tire, but it wasn't. It was the bumps that disrupted the car on the racetrack, and obviously that's going to be a concern for all the Joe Gibbs Racing teams here today. One of the top 3 focuses. I spoke with Denny Hamlin's crew chief, Mike Wheeler, this morning. He said, look, we have some similarities in our cars, and so obviously we're going to concentrate on those bumps, making sure we can get through there this afternoon.
Kind of interesting, Jeff, that we see these cars still sitting on pit road. I know the track is busy, but the conditions aren't going to change, so with it not being the longest practice this morning, I would have expected to see these cars out making laps.
And always interesting when you see brothers, nose to tail, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch. Brothers, Kurt's the older of the two brothers.
Yeah, I think in a bad day yesterday, I think this 18 team got out a little bit lucky to leave a lower water radiator hose loose and make a lap on the racetrack without that, or 2 laps really, without that coming off on the racetrack. Quite possibly, and luckily for them, they're not getting another car off the trailer, because had that come loose on the racetrack, most likely it dumps all the water out of the radiator quickly, and that would have been another wreck. So in a bad time, I think they had a little bit of good luck.
Jimmy Johnson won at Martinsville a week ago, which locks that car and team into the championship 4. But Jimmy Johnson going for another landmark, I guess you would say, at this racetrack. He wants to win 4 in a row in the chase races. So the fall races, he's won 3 already, and looking for a 4th tomorrow.
But I will say, Rick, the 48 didn't strike me yesterday as a car that was going to compete for that 4th in a row. Now, there's still a lot of practice and things to be done, but you just don't expect Jimmy Johnson to qualify in the 19th position. And that wasn't just a bad qualifying lap. He was outside the 30s in practice. I know they said that they had a strategy of saving tire, and we'll see if that pays off today with more tires to work on their car. But we see right here as he moves up the racetrack, the 14 of Tony Stewart, in my mind, is making ground on this 48 Jeff. He seems to be a little better than him right now. So it seems to me that the 48 is still looking for some more comfort, something different in this race car to help Jimmy Johnson out.
Well, too, and I think Jimmy running the top, that early in the run probably gave up a little bit of speed. With good grip in the tires, you probably want the shorter way around the racetrack, but he was running the high line, so now he's moved back to the bottom, and let's see if he can get away from the 14.
Pretty good through the center.
I think the interesting thing about this racetrack is that you can run all over the place, and the question is, when do you go there? And from a driver's standpoint, it's really hard to know when to make that move to the top. If you go too early, you give up some speed. If you go too late, you hurt your tires by running on the bottom potentially. So it's a give and take. I think we know that the top line is going to be faster as the run goes on, but you can see, we talked about Jimmy Johnson, and when he went to the bottom of the racetrack, now he's starting to put some distance between he and the 14. He's just taking the shorter way around the racetrack. If he continues to run, he will find himself back to the top.
A year ago, it was a Brad Keselowski dominated race. It seemed as though Brad was going to run away with the Texas Motor Speedway race, and then late in the race, the 48 of Jimmy Johnson makes the move, the pass, and takes the win again. That was his 3rd in a row in the fall races at this track.
Big difference, though, Rick. Jimmy Johnson was already excluded. He was already out of the chase. So that win there, why was a win and a great win, didn't help him advance to the championship 4 in Miami. Now at this point, a win here, while he's already advanced, a win here could prevent someone else from getting that.
When you advance in the Sprint Cup Series, and at Texas Motor Speedway, Jimmy Johnson has figured out how to win. The fall races especially. 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. Will he make it 5 in a row?